There was nothing that made me happier than throwing that guy over to the fucking PFL.
The president of the most powerful fighting organization on the planet just went completely unfiltered, and what he said changed everything.
Well, I think the best person to answer that question is Dana White. You have to ask him whenever you have the chance. You ask him.
Zero corporate speak, zero damage control, just pure uncut confrontation about Francis Ngannou's departure and what really went down behind closed doors. When those final words hit the airwaves during that live broadcast, Francis fired back in a way nobody saw coming. Dana White goes head-to-head with Francis Ngannou. This wasn't some backstage whisper campaign or some sanitized company statement. This exploded right there in front of everyone. Cameras running, audience watching live, as Dana White sat up straight, stone-faced, ready to tackle the elephant in the room he'd been dodging for months straight. Francis Ngannou, the guy who held the belt, then walked away completely. The host kept digging for answers, and Dana stopped playing defense. Contract battles, public shots fired, the whole messy situation that got completely out of hand. Right when everyone expected another safe politician answer, Dana's whole energy shifted. That's the moment everything went sideways.
You know, I kind of like, at some point, feel very ignoring to just have to be responsible of what people say. Basically, like, if Dana say this, then I'm out here gonna basically defend myself of what Dana said or whomever. I think whatever he said, if he's in peace with, it's okay.
This brewing storm has been building pressure for years now. Like watching a pressure cooker about to blow its lid, and brother, it just exploded across the combat sports world in the most insane way possible. When Dana White has something burning inside him that needs to come out, the man absolutely unleashes everything without holding back even slightly. So here's what you need to know, because understanding the full picture is absolutely essential for grasping just how massive this whole thing really is. Maybe you've been focused on other sports or just missed this drama entirely. So let me catch you up on what might be the most bitter, most intense, most captivating rivalry in all of fighting. Francis Ngannou, known everywhere as the Predator, former UFC heavyweight king, the human being who carries what scientists measured as the hardest punch ever documented in recorded history. We're talking about 96 horsepower worth of impact. Picture getting slammed by a Ford Escort at full throttle. This absolute unit sat down with Ariel Helwani on December 10, 2025. And when they got talking, Ariel pushed him hard on something Dana White had been broadcasting for weeks. See, not long before this, Dana White jumped on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz. What he said during that show was absolutely mind-blowing. He straight up accused Francis Ngannou of getting physical with him, claimed Ngannou actually put hands on him, described some incident at UFC headquarters that completely destroyed any respect Dana had for this guy forever. So when Ariel Helwani confronted Francis about this stuff, asking him straight up if any of it actually went down, Francis gave this response that stayed cool and collected, but you could feel the weight behind every single word.
I'm not inviting him to do anything. I'm not in court.
No, I know. But you know, Francis, he's on a podcast. He's saying, hey, this guy's a bad guy. He put his hand on me. He did all this stuff. This is not a good that paints a picture of an ugly scene. And so if someone said that about me, I would feel probably the need to defend myself. I didn't touch you. What are you talking about? You're trying to assassinate my character or something.
Ariel kept pressing harder, asking Francis point blank if he wanted to fire back at these serious accusations, if he was going to stand up for himself against this stuff. Francis came back with something that revealed exactly where his head was at.
As I said, over time, I just get tired of those stuff. I really saw that and scroll and move.
Okay.
I get past it. I wasn't even, I mean, I shouldn't be thinking that you're going to ask me that, obviously, but I'm long gone from that.
But wait, because this is where things get absolutely wild. When Ariel asked Francis straight out, did you ever actually touch Dana White? Francis dropped an answer that suggested way more was happening underneath the surface. Then when pushed about whether he'd challenge Dana to back up these alleged incidents with actual proof, Francis delivered what could be the most loaded statement of that entire conversation.
This is interesting stuff, Francis.
You hear that? Francis Ngannou, without flat out calling Dana a liar or confirming the story either way, basically said, hey, the UFC building has cameras everywhere that could show everyone exactly what really happened. He's not calling Dana dishonest. He's not backing down either. He's saying check the footage if you want the truth. Francis also made it crystal clear that he's reached this place in his journey where getting dragged into this kind of drama just doesn't move the needle for him anymore.
Let me tell you what, if we let guys go, feel bad for the fucking company that gets them. We let them go for a fucking reason.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't have to let anybody go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be in business with guys that I don't like and that I don't think are good.
This interview alone would have blown up the internet completely. Former champion addressing years of attacks from the biggest power player in mixed martial arts. That's front page material every single time. But what came next is what really sent earthquake tremors through the entire fighting world. Because right there in that same conversation, Francis Ngannou dropped information that flipped the whole script upside down. He revealed his PFL contract was wrapping up soon, that he'd be hitting free agency. And the big one, the statement that lit everything on fire, he wanted to fight Jon Jones at the upcoming UFC White House event.
Let me be clear on something too. When I say the physicality, it's not like Francis Ngannou came in here and like threatened us, you know, or did anything like that. But as men, everybody who is a man knows there's these situations with that, you know, we're in there and he's telling me that I deserve the 50,000. I want the 50,000. I said, and I get it. This guy fought whoever the fight was on the card, we had determined that they were going to get the 50,000. And I'm in there with them for however long we're talking, and I'm like, I'm done. And I had.
What do you think that's going to do? When they asked him what fights he wanted most, Francis didn't hesitate for a second. 2 names. Jon Jones and Deontay Wilder. This was the match that ignited the explosion. This was what made Dana White come out swinging in the most Dana White way you could possibly imagine. Dana White completely loses it. If you thought Dana White would just ignore Francis Ngannou's comments and move along quietly, then you clearly haven't been watching how this man handles business. Dana White might be a lot of things, but staying quiet when someone pokes the bear definitely isn't one of them. Hours after Francis Ngannou's interview started making waves online, someone asked Dana about the whole situation, and what happened next was basically a complete destruction. A piece-by-piece breakdown of any fantasy that Francis Ngannou might someday step back into the UFC. A nuclear response that didn't leave any wiggle room whatsoever. When Dana got asked about Francis wanting to fight Jon Jones at the White House event, his answer came instantly and hit like a sledgehammer. Zero hesitation. No political double talk or careful word choices. He unleashed the kind of brutal honesty that's made him one of the most quotable personalities across all sports.
This guy just used to wander around UFC headquarters like this was his house. This guy literally spent the whole day here. Breakfast, lunch, fucking dinner, you know. So I started to walk out and he put his hand on my chest. He says, we're not done talking yet. And I said, oh, we're fucking done talking. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like, you know, Francis Ngannou came in here and was like physically, but that's what went down.
Dana was just getting warmed up though. He went deeper into the physical confrontation story, dropping more specifics that went way beyond what he'd shared on the Flagrant podcast weeks before. This time, he called out names and painted this detailed picture of what supposedly happened.
I tell you guys all the time, we're in the fucking fight business. Mm-hmm. Shit happens. And you don't have enough fucking time in your life for me to tell you all the stories that have happened behind the scenes and what goes on around here. And this is why I don't like telling them, you know. Yeah. And I truly believe that a lot of shit is man shit.
Then came the big moment. The alleged physical incident that Dana White says completely changed how he saw Francis Ngannou forever.
My whole thing with Francis is, I have this philosophy where when somebody shows you who they really are, believe them. Mm-hmm. And there was nobody more into Francis than me, okay? When I met this guy, I was like, holy shit, you are what a heavyweight champion looks like, all this shit. And I was all in on Francis. I mean, early on, I had Francis sitting behind me in the fucking Zuffa section, in my seats. And then we were in Boston, and he showed me who he was.
What makes Dana's response so powerful isn't just these accusations he's throwing around, but this whole philosophy he laid out with them. He drew the sharp line between what he calls tough guys versus bad guys. According to Dana, Francis Ngannou belongs firmly in that second category.
I told the fucking boys, he lost a couple, and I said, I don't want to be in business with this guy. And two of my guys in the matchmaking department said, oh, you don't understand it. I said, okay, is this what you want to do? And they said, yeah. I said, I'm going to teach you a fucking lesson. When somebody shows you who they are, fucking believe them. You're both fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess you're going to have to learn the hard way.
Then Dana revealed something even more brutal. He talked about how he used to be one of Francis Ngannou's biggest champions, how he believed in this guy when everyone else had given up, how he put his own reputation and energy behind Ngannou's rise.
So safe to say, no interest in bringing him back. No interest.
I don't know how I can make it any more.
Dana says he tried warning other people in the company about what he was seeing, but nobody wanted to listen to his concerns.
Wilder in boxing, John Jones in MMA.
Here we sit today, when someone asked him directly if there was any chance of doing business with Francis Ngannou again, Dana White's answer couldn't have been more final or more dismissive.
Remember when you dream of all the things that you have now, the life that you have now, like, what did it take exactly to be happy? You should just go out there, oh, I want this, chasing at the end of the day. Is that is that the thing that's going to make you happy? Not necessarily, not if you skipping them and then move forward,
Then came the line that really captured Dana White's true feelings about this whole mess. The quote that dominated headlines across every MMA website. The statement that showed just how personal this battle has become. This right here isn't business talk. This isn't contract negotiation language. This is straight up personal hatred. Dana White isn't just saying he won't work with Francis Ngannou. He's saying good riddance. He's telling the PFL they should feel sorry for themselves for signing him. The background, what's coming next, and why this matters so much. To really grasp how significant these last few days have been, we need to step back and look at the bigger story here, because none of this happened overnight. This confrontation represents years of building tension, years of public statements, years of what both guys clearly see as personal betrayal. This whole thing started back in mid-2021 when Francis Ngannou took the heavyweight title from Stipe Miocic. But the public drama kicked off in 2022 during contract talks. Ngannou wanted more control, stuff like boxing opportunities, health coverage, someone to advocate for fighters, sponsorship freedom. The UFC saw these as completely unreasonable demands. What followed was this slow-motion breakup that played out through press conferences, interviews, social media battles. At UFC 270 in January 2022, when Ngannou defended against Cyril Gane while fighting with a torn MCL, Dana White completely skipped the post-fight belt ceremony and media session. A shocking break from normal procedure that showed how toxic things had gotten. By January 2023, the UFC released their matching rights, officially cutting Ngannou loose and taking his belt. Dana White called a press conference claiming they'd offered Ngannou a record deal that beat even Brock Lesnar's contract. But Ngannou turned it down. Ngannou shot back saying the UFC wouldn't budge on terms, using ego stories to avoid admitting they wouldn't compromise on boxing rights or pay. May 2023, Ngannou signed with PFL in this groundbreaking deal, giving him ownership stake and fight selection power, terms Dana White publicly ridiculed, all through 2024 and into 2025. The trash talk never stopped. UFC 308 press conference in October 2024. Dana White declared Francis isn't a good person. He acts like one. We'll never do business together. We can't stand each other. Now here we are, December 2025, watching the final act of this drama play out live. But how does Francis Ngannou see all this? How has he handled years of public attacks from one of combat sports' most influential figures? Talking with Ariel Helwani, Francis shared that he's gone through major personal growth, that he's learned to release the negativity that used to eat at him. He mentioned feeling pretty let down by how everything played out. When asked if he could imagine a normal relationship with Dana White, something basic like shaking hands or just being polite, Francis responded with this thoughtful, deep perspective. He suggested things never should have gotten this bad. Wondered how the situation fell apart so completely from where they used to be. He implied there wasn't any real reason for the conflict to reach this level. and finished by saying Dana White seemed really disappointed with how it all ended up. When Ariel asked Francis about his mindset now, how he'd found peace in all this chaos, Francis gave what became one of the most honest moments in the whole interview. Looking back over the last year and a half, he said the experience made him examine himself and think about his real purpose. He talked about times when his biggest worries were finding something to eat or somewhere to sleep, things that used to seem impossible. But even after getting security, he realized happiness didn't just come automatically. That realization made him face a bigger question. If having everything still doesn't bring satisfaction, then what are people really searching for? This is someone who's clearly done the inner work, someone who's faced his struggles and come out the other side with the kind of clarity most people never. Definitely. The real question now is, can either of those fights actually materialize? With Dana White making it obvious that Francis Ngannou is completely banned from the UFC. The Jon Jones fight looks pretty much impossible, unless something major shifts. Unless the money gets too big to ignore. Unless fan pressure builds so high that even Dana White has to consider it. About a possible boxing match with Deontay Wilder, Francis mentioned that both guys are interested, but no real talks have happened, and nothing solid has developed. So what we have right now is this situation that feels completely unfinished. A rivalry that shaped an entire era of heavyweight fighting. Two guys who obviously have serious problems with each other, but who seem stuck in this conflict forever. Social media reaction has been all over the place. Some people are making jokes about Dana White's tough guy act, laughing at the idea of the UFC boss trying to intimidate the hardest puncher in combat sports history. Others are backing White's position, calling Ngannou difficult and fake. But maybe the most important thing to take from all this is what Francis himself expressed, a way of thinking that goes beyond petty professional sports drama. This is someone who's been through hell, literally and figuratively. Someone who grew up poor in Cameroon, made that dangerous trip across the Sahara Desert and Mediterranean Sea to get to Europe, lived on the streets in Paris with nowhere to go, then became the most feared heavyweight fighter on earth. Now, at this point in his career, he's discovered something that might be worth more than any championship or any huge payday. Inner peace. Whether Dana White and Francis Ngannou will ever make up is anybody's guess. Whether we'll ever see that dream fight between Ngannou and Jon Jones looks doubtful right now. But one thing's certain, this story isn't over yet. New chapters keep getting written, and in the crazy world of fighting, anything can happen. Because if this whole saga has taught us anything, it's that in the fight game, the most shocking surprises tend to drop when nobody's expecting them. So here's what I wanted to. Was this confrontation finally revealing the truth? Or just another power play dressed up as honesty? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and for more content like this, check out the next video on your screen.